Pierre, welcome to #EVAW.
Thank you.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you is tell us about working at CPI.
Yeah, my journey to get into CPI. Yeah, of course. I'm an immigrant from Peru originally, and I moved to the United States at a young age when I was 11. And since a very young age, I became obsessed, if you will, with the reasons that my family left Peru and that I left Peru. And so my entire studies, both in high school, if you can believe it, in undergrad, and then my master's and, going on to graduate school, was really all about understanding violence and societal violence. And as I said, I became obsessed with it. And so over time, I realized that the more that anytime a country has any type of upheaval, be it social upheaval, climate change challenges, gender-based violence goes up. And I dedicated my career for over 15 years, to working around violence against women, specifically domestic sexual violence and sex trafficking. And I did it at the level of direct services, working with survivors directly. I did it at the level of policy, level of research, communications, and then I worked for some national organizations on this issue. And all around systems change as well with governments. So by the time that I came to CPI, I thought I have a pretty good array of systems change tools, if you will. And then I've done quite a bit of work with governments, and I'd love to expand that repertoire of knowledge around systems change and apply it to issues outside of just gender-based violence. And so CPI works on a number of issues ranging from public health, climate change, innovation in local governments, and of course, violence against women.
Wow, what an amazing story. Thank you for telling us that. Can I ask you, why is the day for the elimination of violence against women so important?
Yeah. Globally, violence against women, or 1 in 3 women experience gender-based violence or domestic violence. The rates skyrocket when you look at Native populations in different contexts, when you look at folks of color, when you look at survivors who are part of the LGBTQ community, which I'm part of as well. You see a high level of violence, and to question my comments, say, why is that? Is it these communities are more inherently violent? And of course, the answer is no. It's oftentimes that we don't have systemic protections, responses, systems that work for folks that allow these kind of crimes to go without punishment or without some type of response. And so this is a particularly important day because we raise the awareness around this issue, and we collectively can think about what are the conditions that we can create to eradicate violence against women.
It's amazing. It's incredible, Pierre, to hear your stories of CPI. And I do want to take this opportunity of thanking you massively because, if the audience have just joined us now, CPI is fundamentally important to allowing this to happen. You've supported Peace One Day to put this podcast on, and together as partners with our great friends at Know More, and of course with Avon. And so I just want to thank you and acknowledge you at CPI for all your team with the hard work you've done to make this possible for us.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I want to ask you, talk to me specifically. Somebody's heard about CPI for the first time. What are some of the services? What are some of the ways in which you're really on the front line helping?
Yeah, I'm going to talk specifically around our portfolio in gender equity. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, work around climate change. We have work around government innovation with local governments, right? Public health, but specifically around gender equity. I can go down the list of a number of projects that we've had, but I'll highlight one, and that is that we are part of the Safe Access for Victims Economic Security. It's a mouthful, but it's a SAFES Center, and it's sponsored, or it's actually funded by the Department of Health and Human Services. It's a 5-year program, and the idea is to look at 13 sites, or 12 states and 1 tribal territory in the United States that are trying to experiment with how to improve the child support system so that it is safer for survivors of domestic violence. And CPI is part of that initiative, right? And it's just such an exciting initiative because it allows us to work directly with communities, directly with states that are trying to improve a government system that we can then take those learnings and amplify it nationwide and say, if we want to create best practices on how to prevent the re-victimization of people of survivors going through the child support system, here is how you do it. Here is how we've learned. Here is the research that we have. Here are the policies that we recommend, right? And doing that in partnership with a number of other really well-known organizations and the federal government, HHS, in the United States, has been completely rewarding. And I know we have a panel, I believe, later on today, specifically dedicated to this topic. So I hope people can tune in.
Yeah, let's see you leading that panel. That's going to be absolutely amazing. So much going on today. So yeah, lots for people to watch and find out more about. Yeah, I just want to ask you, I mean, Peace One Day, we put a lot of constructive narrative out. So as I said earlier, we're honored to be working with you to be able to do that today around the elimination of violence against women. And, obviously we're really concerned about the amount of refugees that's increasing. We're very concerned about the way in which we're treating our planet. And we're really concerned about the increase of wars. Where are we on the issue of domestic violence? Are we getting on top of it? Is it coming down? Is it going up? I mean, what's some of the facts that we might have to share with us?
Yeah, well, we can go down that road, but I think what is more interesting for us, which we work again with governments, is this question of, yes, that gender-based violence happens at the individual level, but there are social conditions and systemic conditions at the government level, society level, that perpetuate violence against women through policies, through laws, right? So I'll give you an example from the United States, which is abortion bans. And that have happened all across the United States. And we forget oftentimes the unintended consequence of not giving access to reproductive rights for women, for instance, right? And that women are dying because they don't have access to comprehensive reproductive health. These are regardless of where you land on the question of abortion, what I'm concerned about is the impact that these type of laws have on women's health and women's lives, right? And so that becomes an example of policies that, again, threaten women's lives or end up killing women, that require special attention, that in my mind becomes state-sponsored violence or state-perpetuated violence because the state is responsible in a way for those deaths.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. You're CPI, you're working from the very top, all the way down, through the whole system, right? The community, right in the home, right at governmental level to kind of change these systemic issues. I mean, that's really incredible. I guess the partnership with them all must be amazing because, of course, two of you are probably complementing each other in quite a big way in terms of outreach.
We do love working with No More, and in fact, I'll just put a plug in, right? That for those watching around the world, that if folks need resources, if they need to know where they can get help, right? I would encourage people to visit the nomore.org website, nomore.org, to find resources in multiple countries all around the world.
Okay, and if they want to find out more about CPI?
Yeah, of course, centerforpublicimpact.org. And we have a page that is just dedicated to our gender-based violence or gender equity specific work.
Yeah. Somebody out there might be watching, is having a tough time right now. What would you say?
Mm-hmm. What would I say? Well, first is do try to go to the nomore.org website. And two, know that you're not alone. I think that for those of us who have gone through gender-based violence, me, myself included, you feel alone. And it is not until you reach out to someone and say, hey, I have something that I would like to confide in you about, or that I need a little bit of help in, that you realize that you have an entire village behind you that is willing to support you in your healing and in the next steps of your life.
Amazing advice, Pierre. CPI, thank you so much.
Thank you.